I will echo the fact that I don't take this for granted. I don't take for granted who I have to sit up or who I get to sit up here with, who I'm fortunate enough to sit up here with. And as I'm entering my 12th year up here, I want to reflect upon the chance when I was first elected and had the opportunity to sit up here with Chris Brown, John McKenna, Deb Sarcone, and Mike Schmidt. And Deb Sarcone and Mike Schmidt and I didn't always see eye to eye together, but the bottom line is they wanted to serve the community, which was fabulous. And everybody that I've sat up here with, from 3 people sitting next to me now, to Joe Howarth, to Steve, everybody's wanted to serve the community. And it is wonderfully rewarding. I get asked the question all the time. Kenneth and I had this discussion in Tom's office the other day. Why do we do this? $300 a month. After taxes, my take home is $300 a month. After taxes, their take home is less than that. I think public service, when it is in your blood, and that's the way that you were brought up upon, to give back. Debbie's a school teacher. Bob's a Marine. Kenneth and I have been giving back to this community because that's what our parents did. And I think I'd be letting my father down if I didn't give back to the community. And we're all still very young, and we're very vibrant, and I think what you see with our community is you see our personality shine through this community. And the work, the disappointing, and I say disappointing only in the matter of publicity, because we're very publicity-wise, but the work that Deputy Mayor does with the young kids in this community, you're never going to get the accolades that the police department are going to get. You're never going to get the accolades that the sports teams get. But you've made a difference in more than just one young lady's life. And when you serve up here, and you go door to door, like we all do, or when you go deliver holiday wishes, gifts, I'll get choked up if I talk much more about that. Mm-hmm. But when you do it, and how do you put a dollar amount on that? How do you put a dollar amount on somebody like Nancy Jaminow or John Gillespie or Bob Nahila who live in our town, Tom Chernetsky, 4 people who live in our town, who if they wanted to go to the private sector could make a boatload more money than they are doing this job. See Regina in the back, lives in our town. These guys can leave us. They don't have to work here. Thank God they do. Thank God they do. They live in our town, they take less money, and they make a difference at where we live. So decisions are always hard for all of us of why we do it. Are we going to continue to do it? And we have a very challenging year ahead of us. We've got 3 council seats that are going to be up, the mayor and 2 council. We have 3 school board seats are going to be up. And we have a couple freeholder seats are going to be up. So the first Tuesday in November could change the direction of the town, of the county, of the state, and more importantly, of the United States. So those of you who have any interest in voting, any interest in where you live, and making a difference where you live, make sure you register to vote. Because if there's ever been a year where your vote's going to count, it's this year. You guys did a great job in thanking everybody, but always at the end of the year I like putting a little something, a couple nuggets out there for next year. Zane and I always do a year interview, and it's fabulous, and I thank Zane because the Malton Telegram, the Malton Sun, the couple names that it's had, has been the only document which goes out of its way to document the history of our community. And every week when I get one of these, and I love when I'm on the cover, by the way. When I get these, you should come to my house. I have piles and piles, because this has documented the history of our town for decades and decades and decades to come. And I thank Zane, and I told him that there are some things that he reports that he's got to. Fair, or if I seem fair or unfair, but I think it's been very fair, and it constantly, and people read this online, they read it in their home, and they see what's happening in the town around them. I know Zane gets paid pennies to do this job, and we know Paul gets paid nothing to do his job. But those two have spent so much time, energy, and effort in documenting the history of our community that just as much as we've dedicated our time up here, guys like those two have dedicated their time to document the history of our community, which is tremendous. So just a couple goals that I have with the downtown to start. I think the downtown still continue to be redeveloped. I think the downtown, we maybe start taking an eye on retail in the downtown. I've got an idea, and I'd like to go visit with the county about it, but I'd love to have the library go downtown and make it a library / community center / senior area, something that if we had a hub like that downtown, and we know the foot traffic that we get here, in that downtown community, once the apartments are all up and running, once the new construction is up and running, that downtown is going to be amazing. We add some retail to it, maybe add a couple restaurants to it, but I love the idea of having a library downtown. It would just be tremendous. Craw Farm across the street. When Kenneth and I first talked about, when Kenneth was running all the way back in 2005, we talked about developing Craw Farm, and we've continued to talk about it. I think the time is now where we sit down and we continue to do an active and passive recreational growth program for Craw Farm. Time has passed. There are still many acres out there for us to use. It might be over 100 acres. It might only be 15, 20 up that we could actually use. But we can really make it a place over the next 5 years that will be another destination for our community, Craw Farm would be. And I'd love to have that. I really would. I want to thank Marlton Rec Council. I want to thank all of the volunteers. There's been a change in the leadership of Marlton Rec Council. Walt Miller, who's another guy who lives in town, police captain, didn't have to do it, and then said, you know what, I guess I don't have enough on my plate, but I'm going to go be the MRC commissioner. Of how many children are in the MRC?
About 7,000 kids all together that play all the sports. Yeah.
So multiply that by a couple of parents and grandparents who have opinions. And we know our job is challenging. But a shout out to Walt and to Mike Orth, the guys who decided to sit on that executive board. That's a behemoth now. Marlton Rec Council is so much different than when Mr. Kessler and Vince Catone and the guys were running it back in the day. But it is, and it's a testament to those guys and the relationship that we have. You know, we joked before when we built these facilities that once we build it, everybody's going to be fighting over it. And you know what? It's a good problem to have. And in times I've sat up here frustrated because we're fighting over fields. And if that's our worst problem in our community, then that's not a bad problem to have. And we know our problems are deeper than that. I think in 2018, we're going to see some answers to how we're going to address this opioid problem that we have. We started addressing a little bit in 2017, but I like the direction the council's thinking. I like the direction where the chief of police is thinking. We've got to be progressive with this. You know, if you look back through history, you know, when you've had the AIDS crisis, you've had the crack cocaine crisis, we've had problems. And we've got to be progressive with this also, just like we were with body cameras many years ago.
Or with drunk driving.
Drunk driving, the Save Lives program. That's a great point, Ken. So last but not least, Zane asked a really good question today. And he said, tell me why you believe that we should be a pro-growth town. And why would we be progressive in growth? And I said, I'll summarize my answer rather quickly, and it's, we always try to make this town the best place to live, right? We want to attract people to come to our community. We want to attract people to live in our community, to spend money in our community, to raise their family in our community. We want to bring ratables in so we can go ahead and bring the tax base up, so we can keep property taxes at a reasonable level. We want to go ahead and create a safe community, which we do with the police department. We want to go ahead and make this a destination place where people don't want to leave. And we all got to remember, 2 years ago, Evesham was the #3 place to retire in the state of New Jersey. And as we see, our growth is keep growing. I don't want to look at an empty Kmart. I don't want to look at an empty bank building. I don't want to look at an empty Olga's. And I don't want to look at an empty field in the middle of an area which we could develop. because we continue, despite what others have said, to grow this town. Kids are still coming into town. Our schools are growing and flourishing. Our community is growing and flourishing. And I'll never, ever do anything but be progressive. That's who I am. It's my personality. And it goes back to Bob's statement earlier. When I got home at 11 p.m. after that football game, my little girls were running around because they had 30 minutes. They spent the whole day with me in 0-degree weather watching a football game. And we had 30 minutes to watch the ball drop. And I sat there and watched it with them, and it was the hardest 30 minutes I've had in a long time. But the reality is, it's a football game. It's a football game. And it was a challenging 24 hours, but we moved on. But what's important is what we do and how we serve and how we deal with adversity. And I knew I'd come here and hang out with my friends and be part of all my friends. And it's a lot easier when you sit here with your friends. So I thank you all for what you've done, the way we've had another great year. We've made this town a better place to live. And Kenneth, what you guys have continued to do and how we've grown the Evesham Celebrations Foundation and with the partnerships that we now have, best place on earth to live is Evesham Township. So I thank you all. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Always good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, good hockey.